Hey everybody, welcome to the Open House podcast. This is our very first inaugural episode. We're so excited. My name is Matt Davis, and I'm joined here by the legendary Bryce Olson. Bryce, how's it feel?
Feels good. I don't know that I needed that much of a build-up, but thank you for that. I feel very blessed to be here with you. And just the heart that you had to start this, so thank you for that.
Awesome. Well, this is, for those of you that don't know, the official Open Door, Open House podcast for House Brokerage, which just so happened to have launched this past week.
That's right. We don't talk about Open Door, Matt.
No, we don't talk. Yeah, well, the whole point behind this podcast is we're going to peel behind the curtain of what it looks like to run a brokerage, to be a realtor, to look for a realtor, anything real estate. The goal of this is to establish that behind the scenes look. And that's why we're an open house. So, of course, we'd like to thank House Brokerage. This podcast is brought to you by House Brokerage. And as an agent of House Brokerage, I could not be more excited to be here and be doing this and kind of peel behind the curtain so people can see what it's kind of like to run in the brokerage world. So with that being said, what I would love to do is kind of jump straight into it and talk about how this even happened. Because this is what's happened is crazy. I mean, this isn't a crazy thing we've done. And so let's talk about founding the brokerage, what that looked like. But I think we should maybe go back in time a little bit. And maybe we can tell the audience a little bit about how you got into real estate in the first place. Because you and I know each other outside of real estate.
We do.
And it kind of is crazy how I joined your team, and then now we started a brokerage, which is insane. So everybody kind of can go through what our origin story is, if you will. You started real estate. What year did you start real estate?
5.5 years ago, whatever year that was.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. And so let's talk about that. So what's your background, and then how do we get into the real estate world?
Yeah, so 5.5 years ago, I was working full-time as a missions pastor at a church here in the North Texas area in Argyle. And I just decided that I wanted to do something additionally to that. At that time, I did not have any idea, one, that I would ever even sell a house, let alone, sell a lot of houses and or start a team, or of course, what we're talking about today, as far as starting the brokerage. So at that time, I just wanted to have something additional, just to be able to do as I'm thinking about things for our family and for our kids, and just thinking long term. I needed to, just look at what that might look like. So I thought about a couple of different things, and I actually decided on, let's go try real estate and let's get my classes and just see what happens and take it one step at a time. And that's what's happened to this point. So a lot of things to say from now to then, but just generally speaking, it's just been one step at a time. And that's what I would tell an agent, in terms of when you get started in real estate, it's having those consistencies. And the other big thing is taking care of people, one family, one person, one house at a time. And they've been the ones who have built up the business that I have been able to have. And then now that's translated into having enough business and enough opportunity to have a team. And we currently have 13 agents on our team. And we launched this brokerage just this Monday, just a few days ago, with 26 agents. So we've already doubled the size of our team without even ever saying anything publicly.
Yeah.
And so that to me is crazy. And I believe that we have a lot of next steps in front of us. It's obviously been a lot of steps to get to this point, which I know we're going to unpack more today. It's been crazy, but it's I believe that this is what our next step is supposed to be, and I think that's just been confirmed by the people that we have that have joined up with us, that I'm surrounded by. And so that's the best thing that I could say, is that I've just surrounded myself with incredible people. And I think that's first and foremost, incredible agents. That's secondary to that. And together, I think we can do something really special.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I know. So I had worked at the same church like Bryce had mentioned. I was a student pastor at a campus there. And my campus closed and I found myself laid off. Didn't know what I was going to do. Went through a 6-month period of like, what does this look like? I'd always been kind of techie. And so I went and I joined a local school district here and worked in their technology department for about 4 or 5 years. And that's kind of just what I did. I taught teachers how to use technology. Was my job. And then eventually I met my now wife and her mom, so my mother-in-law, who happens to also now be an agent with House Brokerage and is our Abilene office manager. So shout out to you, Mindy, for getting me down this road. But she kind of had been telling me for a while, hey, you would be so good at real estate. You should definitely do this. And it was one of those things that I was like, maybe, I don't know. What does that even look like? So I remember like pulling up YouTube videos and being like, what does a realtor do? And that was kind of like and I would like watch these like day in the life of a realtor. And I remember being like, I don't even know if I want to do, what does this look like? I don't know. But I loved the idea of helping people buy homes. That was always something that was so cool. So I became a realtor. I joined a different brokerage, and I was there for about 5 to 6 months. It was okay, but I wasn't loving it. I felt kind of like I was on an island. And so I remember distinctly going into one of my manager's office meetings and kind of talked to my manager, and I was like, man, I'm struggling. I can't, they always say, hey, when you're in real estate, reach out to your sphere of influence and let them know you're in real estate so that they can use you when they want to buy a house. And all my sphere of influence was buying houses. But the problem was my sphere of influence was the Bryce is right. And so I would have all my friends and family and all my former coworkers and all these people that I knew and loved and have still love to this day. And I kept hearing the same thing over and over again of, well, if we weren't using Bryce, we would definitely use you. It was just like
smarter to use you.
No, but it was just one of those things of like, man. And so I would go into these office meetings and I would tell my office managers at the time at this other brokerage, look, my sphere of influence is the Bryce is right. Like, I don't know what to do. I can't compete. How am I supposed to compete with this? Eventually, I decided, hey, you know what? I want to join a team. I want to learn some more about real estate. I reached out to my brokerage at the time, and they had kind of said, hey, you don't need to join a team. You're fine. You're going to do great as a solo agent. And I was just like, I'm struggling here. I need help. I need something. And so I messaged you on Facebook, and I was like, hey, Bryce, would love to talk to you about real estate and your team and all of that. And I was expecting, it's really funny, I was expecting you just to be like, yeah, here's my number, let's talk. And you're like, hey, let's go meet up for coffee. And I was like, okay, cool. And so we go and we sit down, and I remember it so clearly. You're like, okay, well, I don't know if I have a spot on the team for you, but what if you join my brokerage, the brokerage I'm at? And I was like, that's cool, I guess, but I really want to join your team. And it's really funny because even to this day, I had the hardest time joining the team out of anybody we've brought on the team since me.
I don't have a reason or an explanation to that. I think that it's true. I was the hardest on you on joining the team, and I have no reason why. And looking back, I was not being wise to not just say, this guy is incredible, we need to take him right now. But I will say that we are very selective on our team, and Matt knows that to this day, where we've turned away about 80% of agents that come our way to join our team. And that's not because they're not great people or that they're not great agents even. It's because we want to find that perfect spot, that perfect fit where we're going to be for them and they're going to be able to fulfill within the team. And so I think that's part of why we really decided that we wanted to create another avenue, another outlet, because we're going to be limited geographically, whatever you want to call it, in terms of just having a team. And so having a brokerage allows us to really shape who we are, not just as a team, certainly not, because it won't be long until our team is just one little blip on this whole thing that will be House Brokerage, and we're already seeing that. But back to to being hard on you, I'm just going to say publicly, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
And Matt is such an incredible asset to the team in just as a friend in my life, and just as someone that, I care about very deeply. I don't know. I'm starting to get a little, emotional, but man, I am so thrilled that you came onto the team, and that now that we, along with, the other leadership that we've brought in, which we'll be unpacking. And I don't know what we're unpacking today. I think we're just here to talk. So I think we do want to make sure to mention, what we have so far, in terms of our leadership and stuff. But Matt, you are a huge part of that. And,
well, thank you very much. It's an honor. I love it. It's from the moment I joined the team. I remember talking to you, so I joined the team, and it was one of those things that, overnight my business exploded. It's like I had all this potential, but I wasn't utilizing it. And then joining the team, I learned how to utilize my potential, and I had the resources and the at bats. I think that's one of the hardest things for a new agent is getting those at bats so that you can, get the experience and get your practice in, and then joining the team. Now I had all these resources that you had provided, and it was like, oh wow, okay, I can do this. And then now my sphere's calling me, and they're like, hey, I see you're selling houses. Let's keep talking, and it's like, oh, thank you. Finally. But so it's definitely me getting into real estate, me joining the team was definitely if you can't beat them, join them kind of situation. And so I'm glad that I did. It's been a blessing and an honor. And now, even now my wife is on the team with me, and Kaylee, she's a licensed agent, and that's just incredible. So many dreams have come true, where it went from me making literally $2,000 in my first year of real estate, being like, I can't do this. What am I doing? To we bought a house back in May, and we never thought we'd be able to buy a house. And so these are the kind of things that, by joining the team and getting those at-bats and getting those resources, it just completely was life-changing. So thank you. It's an honor. And so I feel like through all of this, on the team, it was very clear when I first joined that we were different, and that we were at a brokerage, which we liked. I mean, it's the only brokerage you were ever at.
That's correct.
I was at another brokerage before that, and then swapped over to this brokerage. Now, I didn't join the brokerage because I was like, I have to join this brokerage. It's best. I joined the brokerage to join the team, but I also loved the mission and vision behind what they had to, and it aligned with me, and so that was great. But one thing that I found out very quickly, and as you and I began to talk through what do we want to do as a team, we began to use resources and things that were kind of outside of what was even being provided for us. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those deals where we kind of created this whole ecosystem and system outside of anything that our brokerage was even using. And we were only using the things that our brokerage required us to use. And so over time, it would be one of those things that we had this secret formula where people would join the team, and we'd unveil the curtain a little bit and be like, hey, here's the secret sauce to be successful in real estate. And I would say by and large, I mean, you've seen it time and time again when people have joined our team, they've gone from really struggling in real estate to being very successful in real estate, because now they have those, either whether it's the at-bats or the resources, the tools, things that we've provided to them and developed. And not to say that anything we give is perfect, but I feel like that's one of the hardest parts for a new agent is what tools am I going to be able to utilize to be able to be successful in real estate? Everybody tells you they have the secret sauce. Everybody tells you that. Mm-hmm. And then you join, or you're kind of utilizing it, and you're like, I don't know. Well, how am I supposed to do this? And so I feel like that we as a team operated in a pretty unique manner. Would you say?
Yes. And I think back to you saying you join the team and you close these deals and stuff. It's that opportunity that's being given to you, but then it's you as the agent being able to close the deal, to be able to take care of that person, to then be able to be an agent on the team. Let's say an Esmeralda, who's been on the team for a few years, and now she's had things where she's been able to meet people because of resources and tools that have been given as a team. And now those people are her friends and family, and they're her referral base that now she's getting from that. And so it's being able to, to have that opportunity initially, but then to be an amazing agent and to become a friend to that person, so that now they are your, what we call in real estate as your sphere of influence,
Yeah.
And I think then to kind of speak on, as far as the tools and resources, that we provide, we have, we basically, there's a word in real estate that I've heard more recently called teamridge. And that's what we were. That's kind of how we functioned as a team that operates as a brokerage. And again, we loved the brokerage that we were at. We just realized that we had created something that, I'll just go ahead and say we didn't need what we had from them anymore. And that's not to say that it's not, a great place for a lot of people. It was a great place for us. But where we are at now is we believe that we could create something different, and that's what we've done. And so as of, this week, we've started a brokerage, and what we've brought into that brokerage is that secret sauce. So, the tools and the resources that we provide are the same ones that we've had as a team.
Yeah.
Which is very unique. It's very expensive. And we're just probably operating in a different way than maybe sometimes others come into real estate, where we're not trying to, and I'm not, speaking of any specific or particular place, but just to say we are looking for the best resources, the best tools, the best technology. And with Matt as our director of operations, we've had a lot of, butting of heads, let's say, in terms of, he has these ideas of what would be the best to provide. And sometimes that's a challenge, because we are brand new, and, but at the same time, I in our leadership, we all have that heart to have the best. And I know everybody says they have the best. So the only way for someone to really see that is to live that out. And like I said, we've had, these resources and tools as a team. And I think the numbers, speak for themselves in that way. And then now to be able to bring that on a brokerage level is really exciting.
Yeah. No, I definitely, there's been a few meetings where I can get pretty passionate. I can get on a fiery hill and die on it pretty quickly. And so there's definitely been a few meetings where we've been talking about tools or things that we're providing for agents. And it's been like, man, no, we have to have this. We have to, but I get it. Yeah.
Well, that's what makes you a great agent too. Those hills that you are advocating for, and the same thing can be translated to your clients. You want the best for the person that you are advocating for, and who you're doing that for in this regard is an entire brokerage of, like I said, 26 agents so far. And, I think we're going to be growing quite a bit. Yeah. We're also not trying to just grow too fast, but we have been spending a lot of time. Matt hasn't slept in 6 months.
Yeah, it's been
I can tell you that for certain. And, the passion that you have certainly brought all of that passion into this. And it's been crazy to watch these people who have just poured their soul and their life into what we've created. And so I say that we aren't trying to grow too fast, but we have what we need to do that. And we've really built this in the way of thinking of being a national brokerage, and I'm not afraid to say that. I think that the stuff that we have put together allows us to be able to be as big as we would ever want to be, but that's not our number one mission or vision. And it's just to take care of people, one agent, one person at a time, and to give them what we believe to be the best of the tools and resources. So
yeah. When we, this all kind of started where I remember you had talked to me, it was way last year. Like it was right before Thanksgiving or even before that. And you had said something along the lines of like, what if we were the Bryce is Right brokerage? And we talked through that. And obviously we're not the Bryce is Right brokerage, but that kind of started this like idea of like, what if we kind of started toying with this idea of like, what would that actually look like? And there was a lot of times where it was a thing and then it wasn't a thing. We're like, no, we can't do that. No, there's no way. And then we'd be like, well, maybe, no, we can't do that. No, we can't do that. And then there was a team meeting, I remember very clearly, where some of the agents, pretty much all of the agents that were on our team, kind of had a miniature coup. And they were like, we have all of our own stuff. We should just form a brokerage. We should form a brokerage. And we were just kind of like, because you and I had talked about it, but we hadn't really like talked globally about that to the team or anything at all. And it was kind of one of those like very awakening, like, oh, you guys are on the same page already. Sweet. That's really good to know. Where it kind of like changed the perspective a little bit about what we were planning on doing. And we still at that time didn't plan on doing a brokerage. We still weren't like, nah, yeah, we're going to do this. It was just kind of cool to know that no matter what we did, the team was going to have our back and be with us in that. And then months went by, nothing happened. We were like, no, we love where we're at. We're going to stay where we're at. We're all good. And then I remember clearly we kind of started talking to another individual who's now our director of compliance, Matthew Tate, where he comes in. And I remember so clearly we had sat down. He comes in a conference room where our office is, and he says, hey, he had like 30 binders of everybody on the team. And it was essentially how he ran an algorithm of our production and we were where we were going to be. It was like so creepy. I was like, are you like spying on me?
He's very different than us in that regard. And that is exactly what we needed to be able to do this. And so, Matt and I are dreamers, visionaries, and obviously I'll speak to Matt to say, he gets things done and executes on things where I'm just kind of that, I talk a lot, and I love the role that I've had, as a team leader, and to be able to really empower others and stuff. And so, like I said, back to just bringing amazing people that are so much gifted, that are so much more gifted than myself in all of these ways that they're leading. And back to the conversation of us starting a brokerage and kind of wavering on that and stuff, like where that also came from is I think we had a lack of clarity of what that vision was going to be at that time. We didn't yet have that. And so one example of that is that I went and got all of my courses, to become a broker. But guess what? I'm not a broker. I'm not supposed to be a broker. And I had to recognize that. And in the realization of Bryce would not be a good broker, that is something that I had to swallow and to realize and to bring those people around us that would be able to fulfill those roles. And so that was a big part of that kind of that journey. And then in the meeting where our team kind of rose up and said, and I don't know, it is a very honest description to say it was kind of like a coup. It was like everyone kind of stood up and they're like, we need to do this. And one person said it, and then they're all banding together, to not against us, but for us to be able to do this. And it's really, I think, unique in that I think a lot of times when someone starts something, they want to then rally the troops and say, get behind us, let's go and do this. But we already had that immediate buy-in where it's like, I almost felt like we were holding them back, and that's a weird dynamic, to be like, I don't want to hold anyone back that has a desire to do something different. And so I think it was at that point when we really were like, let's go for it.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's where we really began to talk through. I remember you called me one night and you were like, I like the name House. That'd be a cool brokerage name. And we were like, yeah, man, that's cool. And we looked it up and we were like, that'd be so cool. But sure, it's taken. There's no way. There's no way. It was like, whatever. And I remember those conversations. But then again, it's like it was always these things where we would talk about it and then it would like fizzle. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until Matthew Tate came in and like presented us with binders of the spy, like, he works for the CIA. Like, I know everything about you. Where he was like, hey, this is what I think you guys would, I love your branding. I love the Bryce is Right team, but I think you guys would operate so much better as a brokerage. And I'd like to, he has a brokerage, had a brokerage. And he said, I would like to, come up under and us build something. And it was a very interesting conversation where I remember being like, oh, wow, is this for real? Is this for real?
Yeah.
And then very quickly it's like, oh, wait, this is like, very quickly it became, oh, this is real. Like we are doing this. And he began to build this thing with us, and we all, we begin to bring in our leadership, and we together kind of built something that, as we kind of said internally, it's like we're agents, but we're building this for agents, like for agents by agents. We want to make sure that agents are taken care of. And not that we ever hated where we were. It was just one of those things, again, that we're kind of like an island. We had all of our own systems. We had everything that was just the Bryce is Right team. We had this formula that we loved. And, I'll speak to me personally. It was kind of like, man, I hate paying fees to places that I'm not using. Right. And that's where, I'm not using the things they're giving me. And it was kind of one of those deals of like, I love what we have, and I'd much rather be able to take that formula and give that to agents and say, these are the systems that we love, and it's not for everybody, but if it is, here you go. Which was an incredible transition. It was amazing going through that and kind of changing, I'll speak personally to me, working on operations on a team level, then to a brokerage level, definitely is bigger stakes. It's definitely a bigger, it's more impactful to people if you mess up kind of stuff. Yeah. And so, but it's definitely been one of those things that I feel that has been just such a blessing to be able to do. And then now seeing kind of how house brokerage is even in its infancy, just maturing and growing, and how the leadership is so bought in, and how everybody is kind of interfacing with it has been just an incredible thing to see. And seeing how we've gone from a team of, I think when I joined, it was how many of us? 5
or 6 maybe.
Yeah. I think I was a 6th team member. Yeah. And then 2 years later, we joined we founded a brokerage as a team, and with top to bottom with Tate. And that was kind of one of those things that was like, wow, this is amazing. And seeing how it's crazy, because I think back to when we went to the coffee shop we went to and sat down and we were talking, and it was like, what if you joined the brokerage but not the team? Kind of that stuff 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And to see how that has kind of transpired to where we're at now, it's talk about butterfly effect. I mean, it's one of those things that I could have never have imagined or even like thought of as this is where our futures will lead to, but it's so incredible that it did.
And I think we needed Matthew Tate, and the fact that he has done this before, maybe to give me personally that assurance that, because it's the stuff that he is so gifted in that I am not. And it's even the things as simple as switching over your license with Trek, and what happens to the listings that we currently have under contract, and are we going to lose those, and like assuring that to the team. And the fact that he had started his brokerage about 4 years ago, and he's been down this road before, and he's pathed out or kind of charted those waters previously. And also, not just that he has done it before, because we could find a lot of people who've done this before, but that he was that perfect fit for what we needed in terms of all of the skill sets and the giftedness. And I believe we're having him here to talk to him next week. Mm-hmm. So we'll unpack more of that with him. But one, example of who he is that I'll personally, if I remember, thank him for next week, is that when I was a new agent, because he was previously at the brokerage that we have been that we have just came from, and when I was a new agent and I had a question at 11:30 at night, and I wrote on our private Facebook page within the brokerage, I had a question, and I was really struggling, and I was needing this question answered. And he said, in a reply to that question that I wrote, he said, "That's a big question." He said, "Would it be okay?" Oh, and let me also mention, this is 11:30 at night. And I wrote this question on that Facebook page, not expecting really to maybe even get an answer until the next day in that forum. But then he responded and said, "That's a big question to answer here. Would it be okay if I call you?" And I'm like, wow, like you know, like he's this agent. He's been this agent for a while. He's very highly respected within our brokerage. And he asked me if it would be okay if he called me. And to me, that was just like that was so big. And it allowed me to have my question that I was struggling with answered. And honestly, I've thought about it and I don't remember what the question was. And that's not the important part. The important part is that he was available, and his heart and his desire is to help agents. And it was, you know, people like him, but him really at the top of that list in terms of, you know, agents that were available to help. And that's, you know, that's the heartbeat, that's the culture that we want to have within the brokerage. And so that's why he's, you know, one of our very most key leaders on a national scale, on our national board of directors as our director of compliance. So I'll have to remember to thank him, you know, next week for that. But just what he brought to the table was so much more than just someone who's started a brokerage and has been doing this for a while, but it's that heartbeat and that culture. And that's exactly what we have intentionally done with those directors and those leaders and those office managers that we have, you know, as a brokerage so far.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I didn't know Matthew Tate much. I'd heard about him, but I didn't really know him very much before we met with him. And he has grown very quickly to be one of my very favorite people alive. So yeah. I'm very blessed by him, love him tremendously. So that's kind of the history of the brokerage. We took a team into a brokerage and partnered with another brokerage and formed House Brokerage, which has been amazing so far. So let's talk about kind of that process in creating House Brokerage. And like you said, there's been a lot of sleepless nights of you know, it was a running joke in my house for a while where if the phone is ringing after 11, it's probably Bryce or Matthew Tate or somebody, you know?
When my phone is ringing, Guy, our son, he's like, "Is that Maddie D? I have your name in my phone from a long time ago. I don't know if it says Maddie D," and he knows it's going to be Maddie D. If it's not Natalie, my wife, it's probably going to be Maddie D. So.
That's great. Yeah. So those are the exactly. It's kind of one of those things where my wife Kaylee will be like, "Is that Bryce?" And it's like, work wife, exactly. And so, you know, that's been so interesting to me. It's one of those deals that I never really pictured myself ever doing this in my life. If you were to ask me 10 years ago, what are you going to do in 10 years? It would have not have been this. My degree's in counseling. Like I'm not I never was a businessman. I never really got into real estate to do business and obviously to do business, but never to be a businessman and be salesy. And that was never my goal. You were a missions pastor getting into real estate. It's not like we were working at Fortune 500 companies thinking like, we're going to found a company one day. Yeah. And then here it is. Yeah. So what are some of the things that I would, you know, when thinking through that process of founding House, that you were either shocking to you or that you kind of didn't even imagine you were going to have to deal with?
That's a big question. I think that I would answer that by saying there's always going to be things that I won't ever be able to fully understand, but it's having those right people around me. And then, you know, being as involved as I can be, maybe even that I can, you know, handle mentally and stuff, but then trusting those people around me to be able to lead. But in terms of like starting a brokerage and something that I wouldn't have expected, to be honest, I would answer that by saying, this is going to sound probably different, but I would say how easy it's really been. I mean, if that makes any sense, because really it hasn't been easy. And we've had to have all of these, you know, sleepless nights. And you might not say, you're like, it has not been easy.
Like, I don't know what
the
you're
reason it's
about.
been easy is because of having people who are leading the way in each of these areas. Because the truth is that these leaders that we have, I mean, I can't just say enough how you all are more gifted than myself in every one of these areas. And so for me, it's really that I think I've learned in leadership that a leader isn't a leader because because I'm telling everyone, this is what we need to do, and to, to kind of carve out that way. But when you see a leader and you see everyone following after them, that's when that you're a leader, is because you have all these people that are following.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I think that it's one of those things that you exhibit that super well, is that servant leadership, of that you are the first person, when you need to delegate, that you need to trust. And I think that that's one thing that you see a lot in people who are launching brokerages, is that I control everything, the white knuckle of like, everything has to be under my control. And since I've ever known you, but especially in real estate on the team or whatever, you find people who are good at the things they're good at and let them do the things they're good at. You're not saying, hey, I'm the best brokerage owner and I know what I need to do, and I can do compliance, and I know everything Trek would ever say, and then we'll never get in trouble with regulatory boards because I know everything. No, you don't.
No one would have came over if we didn't have those people.
Yeah.
Because they feel like they wouldn't be able to trust me to be able to lead in those ways. And so for me, I think the best thing that I've done for myself is that I'm not overseeing any of these areas, and we have the best of the best that are, and just to be able to trust them, to give them, those keys to the car, and just let them run and let them go for it. And we're going to learn a lot of things along the way, but I think that this, to me, has come together so fluidly, like just organically, where it just hasn't been like, there's never been a time on this journey that I've doubted what we're doing. And I think that's something maybe I'm trying to kind of get to, is like, there's never been a time where I'm like, are we doing the right thing? Like, sure, there's the questions of like, wow, like, okay, we do need to have that. This is a lot of money. How are we going to work through this? What are we going to, what are we going to do about this problem? There's plenty of those things along the way, but there's never been anything as, so crucial that I've doubted that we're doing the right thing. And, as a person of faith, and, it's just been clear to me that this is the path that, that me personally, need to be on. And then everyone, will determine that for themselves, along this way too. But for me, it's been, there's just never been a doubt that this is what we're supposed to do. Oh,
I agree. I think it's one of those things that definitely was a lot of work. I kind of was in a hole for like a 6-month period of, yep, I'm still doing real estate, but I'm also, when I'm done doing real estate during the day, I'm working on this at night, or vice versa, or whatever. And I think everybody kind of felt that, but I think that it's shocking to me how everything came together and everything felt so natural. Nothing felt forced. Everything kind of felt like it was preordained, like it was just one step after another. Domino fell after domino fell. We had, we built up this huge objection in our head, and then we got to that point, and it was not an objection. It was easy, just quick and easy to get through. And that, to me, that felt like it was the whole time we're doing the right thing because of that. I'd also know it's been an interesting dynamic to kind of now be, like I said, I don't have an MBA. I don't think anybody in the brokerage right now, maybe Matthew, I feel like Matthew Tate would be the guy who has the MBA, but we're not necessarily, and I think that's super important though, we're not necessarily businessmen, but we care about people. And I think that everybody within leadership, within our brokerage, from office manager all the way up to director to owner, we care about people. We want to make this thing for people. And we've said, we don't want to be we've had people reach out to us and say, hey, are you accepting investors? I would love to invest in this company and I would love to be an investor. And we've told them, no, we're not accepting investors. We don't want outside money. We don't want anything like that. We want to be for agents. We are agents. We want to make this thing that's privately owned, just do the best that we can and be for people and care about people. my thing. I talked to a very wise businessman yesterday who kind of caught wind that we had founded a brokerage and called me and was like, all right, so what's going on? And was wanting to get the details. And he was kind of imparting some wisdom to me. But one of the things that he said, which I think that we align with very well, is, be excellent at real estate. And that's it. Be the best for a realtor to come in and succeed in their business, and that's it. Don't get busy. Don't get tired with all of this other stuff. Don't get greedy. Whatever it is, just focus on the agents, and then it's going to pass on to the consumer. Because at the end of the day, the goal for our brokerage is for a consumer to look at us and say, this is the brokerage that I want to sell my house with, or I want an agent from this brokerage to represent me in buying this house. And to do that, we have to train our agents and establish ourselves as a high quality brokerage. Where there's an amazing book called Raving Fans that I've had to read way long ago in my early professional career. But I still have that tenet. The tenets from that book I keep with me today because it really made a mark on me. And essentially it's saying, hey, everywhere you go, it doesn't matter about your advertising, your marketing, what people say. Your marketing, your advertising, what people say about you is people love you so much because of the excellent quality and service that you provide that they can't stop from raving about you. It's not that they just like what you do. They love what you do and they want to tell all your friends about it too. I feel like that's a tenet that realtors understand because we all, anytime we close a deal, it's, hey, tell your friends and family about me, please. Thanks so much. Mm-hmm. But as a brokerage, to be able to do that too and say, we want our consumers to rave about us. We want agents on our brokerage to rave about us. We want agents to hear about us and say, wow, this brokerage really cares about me. I want to be there. And then we want the consumers to say, wow, this brokerage really makes it easy for me to sell my house or buy a house or whatever in real estate. I want to be with an agent, be represented by an agent at that brokerage. And I feel like that's something that we have done our best to try to instill. And I know as a team, culture has always been our number one. And that's, it's so funny because somebody will come in and interview for the team. And the number one thing I always say after every interview is, okay, do they fit our culture? Mm-hmm. And they could sell $800 million in real estate. Mm-hmm. But if they don't fit our culture, I'm always going to say no, because culture to me is so important. And I want to be around like-minded people that I believe will make that culture a friendly, better place. And in real estate, where culture can be so toxic sometimes, you have to protect that. Yeah. And so I know as a brokerage, we've kind of had that same mentality of like, we have to protect our culture. We have to be a culture that is for people and cares about people. And so that's one thing that I've loved through this whole process is using and utilizing that. Like, we care about culture. We're making Raving Fans. That's been amazing to see how we're upscaling all of that. So yeah. I don't know.
And how much more excellent will people be in what they do when they love where they're doing it. And that can be said of any industry. That's certainly not specific to real estate. But when we have that culture where people love where they are, and then they love what they're doing, and then they care about the people that they're serving and helping, I mean, there's opportunity there. And so we just want to start with that, of having them have the tools, have the resources, have the culture that we have created, that we're not shy or unabashed to say that we believe is excellent. And that's going to translate into agents who want to have other agents join the brokerage, into agents taking great care of their clients and giving them tools that can set them apart and things they can even offer their clients. And there's a huge list of things that we could list for that. And I'm sure we can, share those things on later episodes. But for right now, just to kind of the crux of who we are is, we esteem and uphold our culture as our number one. And so as much as we can, we're always going to guard and protect that. And it is different because when you have a team, that's a little bit more closer to the vest, I guess, and then as you grow and as you expand, that will become harder. And that's something we're already wrestling with and considering what that will look like as we do expand, not just beyond. I mean, we've already expanded, and we haven't even said that yet, but we already have launched this week with 4 office locations And those are based out of Denton, which covers our North Texas. And then we have an Arlington office that covers our, did I say North Texas? North DFW, up to North Texas, up to Oklahoma. And then our Arlington office, which is our South DFW office, and then out to Decatur. And then down from there to Abilene. And so we're covering kind of this North Texas area. And, the office managers are a huge component to that, because they're the ones who are going to be leading in those areas. And the further we get away from our national headquarters, the harder that will be. And so, we just always have to have the most excellent in leadership. And, we are really keeping that at the forefront of everything that we're doing.
Yeah. That's been amazing to see how that culture, even as we're expanding. I mean, Abilene is about 2 hours away. That's not an easy trip to make sometimes, but to be able to say, hey, we do have agents in Abilene, we do have an office in Abilene, but also to know that our culture is preserved there as well. The goal is that eventually in Anchorage, Alaska, our culture is preserved there as well. And as we grow, no matter where we grow, we take that formula and scale it where we're always preserving that and making sure that we are the very best solution for an agent who wants to succeed in real estate. And that's been amazing to create. That's been the thing that, to me, I love when somebody comes to the team and we bring them into the team and they've never done a deal and they're like, I don't know anything about real estate. And then to see them 9 months, we have an agent on our team right now, 9 months in, and they have 4 under contract right now. I mean, just that
4 or 5 under. She actually got one under contract last night, and then was putting in another offer today. So it's potentially 5 or 6. I think 5 under contract right now, and potentially another one, here today. So, and we're already talking about having her on here in the future too.
Yeah.
And that's, just to really showcase those agents that are coming in and really utilizing the resources and the tools that we provide, and then taking it to, to a level that is so unique in our industry. And there's all kinds of statistics about what an average realtor sells, and just to surpass that so quickly that she has done, it's really amazing to be able to see those success stories that we've been able to be a part of, and to impact their families, and to have things where agents are telling us what they're able to do, like your example of buying a house that you didn't know you'd be able to do this quickly in your journey, and stuff. So yeah it's beautiful. It's just great to see. And like you said, it's great to see also that value that we provide to the consumer. And, knowing that if you're doing a deal with one of our agents, we've given them a crazy amount of tools to succeed and to represent them in the absolute best way possible. And that, like you said, is not cheap. We've had lots of very heated meetings about, are you sure we should do this? Are you sure? But I think that we finally rested in a place where I can confidently say, I love what we offer. I love what we have. And I love what we've done so far. And I'm so excited about the future that we hold. And I'm also, it's just in terms of the sleepless nights and everything that we've had so far, getting to this point, it's been so worth it to be able to do it with people that you love and that give you life. And I was talking to a buddy of mine last night about this, and we were talking about, I was explaining to him that we founded this brokerage, and this is what we're doing, and this is what everybody's role is, and kind of going into the nitty gritty with that. And he said, isn't it crazy when you do something you love with people you love, and it's like, it's almost like work doesn't feel like work anymore. It's just like you wake up every day, and even though I'm working 20-hour days and I'm so tired, it's like I'm excited I get to work, to the point where my wife will be like, hey, can you stop for a second, put your phone down, and let's just chill. And then it's like, okay, yeah, I actually do need to set some boundaries there, but it's establishing that, value of I love what I do. And I think anybody in leadership within the brokerage would say, I love what I do. And that's an amazing thing to be able to have and to be able to share and say,
this is fun for us. This isn't something, it's been very hard, very difficult, something that I can't imagine for you how difficult it's been, just in terms of like, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know what the future holds. But definitely look forward to reading your book one day about how I founded a brokerage and stayed sane. So
I think that the reason why you love so much of what you do is because you are doing the role and the giftedness that you have so much. I don't know that you would be able to say that if you were our director of education.
Definitely
or
not.
our director of sales. And so I think the fact that you have, a former tech director at our local Denton ISD, and teaching teachers how to do technology, and now that's not so much different than teaching agents to do technology. And so like your giftedness, your passions, you've been able to live that out in this role. And because we have people who are leading each of these areas, I would hope that each of these other directors would speak in the exact same way. And from the conversations and from the meetings and the things that we're getting to whiteboard together, and we just left a meeting with our director of education, mapping out what our really kind of finalizing what our mentorship process looks like, and to be able to see that excitement and that passion that she has for that area. Meeting with our marketing director, who actually happens to be in the room right now, because podcast is part of marketing, right? And stuff. So just to be able to see these leaders who are leading in the ways that they are so passionate and so gifted, I think that's why we all love what we do so much, is because we're not trying to be at all, I think that the thing is that we, we're getting to do what excites us, what gives us that passion in that life.
Yeah, definitely. For the person who says, hey, I want to found a brokerage one day. Obviously, bring it on. More competition, the better. But for that person, what is the one thing that you would impart with them before we sign off to say, this is what you should know before you decide you want to found a brokerage? What would you say that is?
You can't do it alone. I think that's what I keep going back to, is that, we are not, and I also think it's important that you are in the field. I think that there's some brokerages that are started on Wall Street and stuff like that. And we are not that. There is not a director. There is not a leader. There is not anyone in our organization that is not going to continue to sell houses, including myself and every national director. And part of that is because we need to grow to have money, but also, it's because we love what we do. Ultimately, we are here as realtors, and we are here to take care of the consumer. And now we're just creating an avenue and a space for agents to be able to do that within. But that's our ultimate, goal, is to be able to help people in buying and selling and investing in houses. And so I think that I should have just ended when I said, you can't do it alone. But just to kind of reiterate that, it takes a village, and we have a really special village.
Definitely. Well, that's going to be it for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in to our inaugural episode of Open House, brought to you by House Brokerage. If you want to join House Brokerage, if you have questions about House Brokerage, email join@housebrokerage.com. We'd love to have that conversation with you. And we are so excited to continue to pull back the curtain of what House Brokerage has to offer, and also just the journey of the brokerage in general. It's something that we have a long road ahead of us, but I'm so excited to have this village, like you said, and it's going to be amazing. All right, we'll see you next week. And Bryce, see you next week. It's going to be awesome.
See you next week, Matt. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Bye.